now Citrus County's top political podcast.
At some point you look around, and you're the only one.
It's pretty good.
And just like that, the perspective shifts.
Paging Bobby Winsler to the microphone. On in 3, 2.
Welcome in, coming to you from the Concurrent Media Network in the heart of Citrus County. However you are making us part of your day, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, the iHeartRadio app, or even through the Concurrent website, we are sure glad you're joining us. Today's show, another house ad, is brought to you by the Concurrent, your newest outlet for Citrus County opinion-based news. Check out the Concurrent, read, listen, watch, discuss at theconcurrent.com. Welcome to the conversation. We have a great show for you. We're going to pick up where we left off last week, talking about the animal shelter, and then we'll get into some potential ramifications of the Assistant County Administrator's resignation. Let's start with this, though. I teach media ethics at my undergraduate alma mater, the University of Tampa, and I give my students tools for how to become responsible news consumers. One of these tricks is to avoid dichotomous thinking. Now, what does this mean? This means don't think of all issues in all or nothing terms. If this bill passes, America is ruined. Nothing will ever be the same. All is lost. That's dichotomous thinking. And it helps us keep from seeing the steps in between, the steps to the best possible outcomes, which often requires nuance and compromise and can't be found in the all or nothing extremes. On the County Commission agenda for the meeting that begins about an hour from now, is a proposal from Commissioner Jeff Kennard to direct staff to bring back options for a new animal shelter that'll cost between $8 to $9 million with added alternates indicated and a plan to finance. If that sounds awkwardly worded, I'm reading it directly off the agenda to maintain the integrity of what is proposed. My initial reaction to this is that it's an example of dichotomous action. I felt at first it was Commissioner Kennard saying, we're either all in on the new shelter or we're never going to end up with anything, so here's a motion for a vote to see who's all in. A Chronicle story written by Mike Wright, published online yesterday, indicated that he wants the board to approve the Lecanto location for the shelter, and it's unclear if this will be part of the motion or not. But here's the problem with dichotomous action. Back in November, at the first board meeting with newly elected Commissioners Ruthie Schleybaugh and Holly Davis, Commissioner Kennard proposed using this same property for the shelter, but the board didn't budge. They approved 10 acres for the Lifestream mental health facility, but would not consider a full 16 acres to include a shelter. And the commission has incentive to use this spot. State Representative Dr. Ralph Mazzullo has volunteered to contribute $500,000 toward the cost of a new shelter if it is built here because of the partnership the shelter could have in the rehabilitation process of inmates at the jail. It makes a lot of sense. And I don't know why the board didn't support this measure back in November. From the Chronicle stories written at the time, it appears they felt designating the land would lock them into funding a new shelter, and it wasn't an $8 million expense that they were willing to accept. And not a lot has changed since this time. We had an anonymous $100,000 donor mentioned last time, which is incredibly generous, but a fifth of what Representative Mazzullo had offered at that time in November. So if the argument is that the donation signaled public willingness to financially support it, then that was already there, and honestly in a much bigger way when the initial vote took place. I'm going to read you a quote now about the animal shelter, and you tell me, see if this sounds familiar. Quote, "At some point, you've got to figure out a long-term vision. One more time. At some point, you've got to figure out a long-term vision. End quote. That was former Commissioner Jimmy T. Smith talking about the animal shelter in 2020, August. Here's the kicker. The paragraph after it in the Chronicle story says the commission directed staff to hire an architect to bring a cost estimate for a new shelter forward, which of course would happen in late March of this year, 7 months after this story, and fail to be anywhere close to what the commission can stomach as a budget. I like Commissioner Kennard a lot, and I appreciate what he's trying to do here, but our problem isn't that we can't get to the final step. It's that we can't figure out how to get to the first step. Dichotomous action can work in business, and Dr. Kennard is a great local businessman, which is probably what is influencing this proposal. But you can go all in on ideas as a business owner because you assume the risk. If you strike out, you have the rest of your career to recover. People describe elected officials as public servants, but maybe a better way to put it is that they're public stewards. They're watchdogs of the taxpayer money. And the problem with dichotomous action in government is that all-in mentality, that no risk it, no biscuit, gung-ho, full steam ahead style means you assume the risk, but if you're wrong, the taxpayer absorbs the damage. You are a steward of the taxpayer dollar. If the board approves this step today, and I think the Lecanto site will be chosen as a collateral outcome of all of this Hail Mary approach, rather than a responsible first step in an organized approach that would consider all sites, then we are leaping ahead of how this process should work and assuming all the risk along the way. Let's shift to our second topic, but first a quick spot read. Be among the first to advertise with the Citrus County Concurrent. We offer a variety of ways to reach your next customer, including website graphics, audio reads, and even traditional print advertising. Get in early to lock in your rate, even as our audience grows. Special consideration given to nonprofits as well. Contact advertising at theconcurrent.com for more information. That's advertising at theconcurrent.com to learn more. Okay. On to topic number 2. County Assistant Administrator Steve Lacknick announced last Wednesday that June 4th would be his final day on the job. The Chronicle included 2 interesting quotes in the story. One from Lacknick saying he had more fun in his previous job as an Alachua County Department Director. This job would largely be seen as a demotion. And one quote from Citrus County Administrator Randy Oliver saying that the county needs somebody, quote, more assertive, end quote, in Steve's role. Now, there are some on Facebook who are speculating impropriety because of the abrupt nature of his decision to leave, and that is just nonsense. Both Steve and Randy are elite-level administrators whose ethical gray area certainly doesn't include anything illegal. I think the natural first question for reasonable people is, who do we blame? Is it Steve Lacknick? Is it Randy Oliver? Is it the county commission? Is it the Citrus County lifestyle? And my theory is none of it. It's just a bad fit. I compared this in a column I wrote about it to some NFL quarterbacks who are talented but bad fits with their teams. But yesterday gave me such a better example with the news that Tim Tebow is signing a 1-year deal to try to make the Jacksonville Jaguars as a tight end. The former University of Florida quarterback was a first-round draft pick of the Denver Broncos, and he got some playing time at the New York Jets. He was just never seen as a good fit as quarterback. He's talented, he's likable to most people, and he's definitely cut out to be an athlete. He just hasn't found his fit since leaving college football. There are two competing philosophies within the structure of our local government. And the first is that the commission, as representatives of the people who elect them, should give the staff direction to execute. Commission as leaders. The second is that the staff, as the day-to-day operatives who know the county best, should do the jobs to the best of their ability and bring decisions to the commission, seeking approval rather than direction. Clarify this a little further. Think of this as the Crystal River approach and the Inverness approach. In Crystal River, you have a popular elected Mayor Joe Meek and the city council who set the direction for city manager Ken Frank. While in Inverness, you have a city manager in Eric Williams and Frank DiGiovanni before him who really steer the direction of the city, while the mayor and city council advise, but essentially approve. I believe Randy Oliver is an Inverness type administrator who wants to do the job and seek approval rather than direction, while Steve Lacknick is a Ken Frank / Crystal River kind of leader who wanted more direction from the commission rather than to push an agenda. Neither of these is necessarily wrong in reality, and it's a mixture of both. You have to have a strong leader on the commission who can steer the direction. You need to have a highly talented staff that can work within this power struggle to operate a county effectively. But if you look at their quotes again in this context, in the context of Inverness and Crystal River style leaders, then it kind of makes sense why Steve would call a job that's largely seen as a demotion more fun, while Randy would say he does want someone more assertive. In the end, it's no one's fault but circumstance. It was just a bad fit. That's all from the Bobby Winsler Show. Follow the Concurrent on social media for the latest updates, and we'll be back next Tuesday at noon. If you want to join this conversation, find us on social media at the Concurrent Facebook, Twitter, or go to the Concurrent website and post on our discussion boards. The Bobby Winsler Show is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, the iHeartRadio app, Concurrent website, or wherever you get your podcasts. See you next week.